And we are here in Tampa, Florida, where this is looking more and more likely to be a worst case scenario for the Tampa Bay area. Again, we've noticed that track continuing to shift west and west, and this is looking more and more likely a west coast storm. But again, don't let your guard down anywhere in the Sunshine State. But let's talk about where I am. I'm here in Tampa. We got downtown Tampa right behind me. It's definitely a lot of businesses closed today. It's a Saturday. Typically, you would have a lot of people running along Bayshore Boulevard. That's this road right off to my right. A lot of people jogging, only a handful of people out. And keep in mind, we are in Zone A right here where we are. This is under a mandatory evacuation. Even the Publix here is getting ready to close their doors. There's a long line of people getting their last minute supplies as they start to prepare the store for potential storm surge. And again, Tampa Bay is just off to my left. So we're talking very high surge rates. You saw Carl Parker in the last 30 minutes. And if you miss, they've upgraded the storm surge here to 5 to 8 feet. And I wouldn't even be surprised if that gets even higher. Keep in mind that the water will rise. This area we will be at will be underwater. And I want to go straight to Carl Parker. And Carl, you know, Tampa has not been hit hard by a major hurricane in nearly 100 years. And it really matters as far as where the worst storm surge goes, depending on the angle the storm comes in. We know a worst case scenario is for it to come in off the Gulf directly into Bay. This would come up towards the west coast into Tampa Bay. Describe some of the impacts and exactly where the eye may go and what that means here for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so right now we think there's a very good chance that that eye wall is going to come right over the area, which we'll take a look at in a moment. And so obviously you've got significant wind impacts as that happens. It's coming right up through that 75 corridor there in southwest Florida, Marco Island into Fort Myers and Naples, on up into Sarasota and Bradenton, into Tampa and St. Pete, and then continuing up towards Cedar Key. So you get that wind damage initially, but then as that center of circulation passes just to the north, on the back side we see this flow that is driving right into the coast, and that is going to dramatically raise the water there in an area where you've got a very shallow continental shelf. That's another big part of what's going on here. The fact that you've got just a really susceptible area to storm surge flooding because of the nature of the coastline there. All out through here, you've got a shallow shelf. And in fact, if you've been in the west coast of Florida, you know exactly what that looks like. There's a look at it right there. There's the shallow shelf I'm talking about. And when you go to the beach there in Tampa and St. Pete and other areas, Siesta Key, you can walk out for a very, very long way, and that allows the water to pile up a lot more readily when you've got an onshore flow, which is what we're going to be seeing for many, many hours there along the west coast of Florida. So a significant surge threat, and once again we've seen an increase in the forecast from the National Hurricane Center going from 3 to 5 feet now up to 5 to 8 feet there in the Tampa area. And so please listen to local officials. If you are right on the coast, you're simply not going to be able to survive that. And keep in mind, when the surge gets up to 6 to 9 feet, it can actually penetrate well inland as well. There are the storm surge warnings now in effect from Cedar Key down across the west coast into the Keys, and then up the east coast as well. Big onshore flow along the east coast. And so you've got raised values all the way around now along the west coast and the south.